But the key that most people don't realize is they try to change their negative chatter while their amygdala is running. So what I learned with the success switch, if I can get the amygdala to go into neutral and then use my parasympathetic nervous system to flood my nervous system, my bloodstream, and the amygdala with serotonin and dopamine, it makes it very malleable. And now I can instill a new belief. I can program that new story in a very short period of time. So that's what I use. It's been a game changer for me. I think it's one of the most powerful pieces of work that I have. And so I'm on a mission to introduce this model of conscious business to as many founders as possible so they know they're not alone, that you can do business in ways that matter, that also make you money. Most people think the business grows as I market more or better. It really doesn't. Your business grows as you evolve.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Don't Be Shy podcast, brought to you by Shy Marketing. I am Haleigh Overseth of Frankie's Podcast Network. I am joined by my co-host today, Alecia Maximo of Venora AI. Hello.
Hello, Haleigh. Thank you for
Excited
the
to be
very
here.
warm welcome. And then we have the amazing Terri Maxwell.
Hi, ladies. It's good to be here.
She's the founder of Share on Purpose. She leverages technology partnerships to build companies that create meaningful impact. And I'm just in the pleasure of being in her essence today. So tell us, Terri, tell us a little bit about you and the businesses or anything that you want to share for your introduction today.
Yeah, I've been growing companies for most of my career, including taking companies public and exiting. And I had a bit of a purposeful awakening in 2008, and I felt like my soul was dying, that I was growing things that didn't matter. And I sold that company and started over with this crazy idea that there has to be a way to use my business growth skills to do good in the world. And Share on Purpose was born shortly after that.
That is, I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. The idea of feeling a bit trapped in a lot of markets that don't have purpose, that don't energize you, that don't give back to you in an impactful way and help you to feel fulfilled in your participation in that. So I think a lot of people can definitely resonate with kind of coming to that sort of a point. So can we maybe kind of go backwards, get a little bit of some of the Terri Maxwell origin story, if you will, right? Let's make this Marvel exciting for everyone, huh? What led you into, like, how did you get started in building your businesses? What led you into that? And what was it that was finally sort of that straw that broke the camel's back and pushed you into a different sort of purpose?
Yeah, it started with, I had a client, a very well-known client. I had a growth strategy firm at the time, and we had done their rebranding. We had rebranded them from a company called Avomex into Holy Guacamole, which most people would know today.
Yes,
And
Nice.
we
definitely.
launched that brand. In addition to doing the rebranding, we launched that brand. We put a growth strategy in place. And about 6 months before we launched the brand, they had hired us to do a marketing campaign. And we did our research, and what we found is that nobody knew their brand, and they had the number one packaged guacamole, had the most market share. So we had to go into the founder and tell him and his team that the spending money on marketing was not the answer. He needed to actually come up with a brand that the consumers connected with. I thought for sure they were going to throw us out in our ear, right? I was like, there's no way. I mean, this is going to be horrible. And they didn't. They said, do you mean to tell us that nobody knows our brand and we're the largest packaged guacamole company in the world? And we were like, yeah. He's like, well, then we need to change it. And I was like, and I drove home. I lived in Dallas at the time, and I was driving home from Fort Worth with their offices. And I'm like, this has never happened to me before, where I've delivered a message like that and not gotten, scowled at. And I realized that they were different. And I didn't know what that meant. But this was 2007, I became fascinated with this type of a business. And I didn't know what it was. There was no name for it at the time. And so I just started doing research, and I realized I called it purposeful or meaning. I call it meaningful money, a term that I coined, that it wasn't about growing the company and selling product. It was really about building something that mattered. And I started looking at my customer base, and I didn't have any other customers that looked like that. And I was like, how am I going to pivot my growth strategy firm to work with these kinds of clients? And I was in the process of figuring that out when I realized the recession was coming. And I was like, there's not enough time for me to make this pivot. So I sold that business in pieces and started over. And so that was really the genesis for me, was just that one customer, Holy Guacamole, that they were doing business in a very authentic way, in a way that mattered. And I wanted all of my clients to look like that.
I love that. That's beautiful. The authenticity of just one company can turn everything on a dime. And doesn't that just say so much about why it is so meaningful and impactful to be your authentic selves and to really come from being passionate about what you do and not that bottom line? I think that is really a beautiful example of that.
Yeah, and lo and behold, there's a lot of other companies out there that are like that, in spite of some of the crazy things that are happening today in business and the politics. That there's a lot of other companies out there that are doing business that way. They just don't talk about it as much. And so I'm on a mission to introduce this model of conscious business to as many founders as possible, so they know they're not alone, that you can do business in ways that matter, that also make you money.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I feel like that is that what's your inspiration that kind of shifted your focus on a purpose-driven business where the audience is really connecting with like very similar values, the mission of the actual business and the vision of it. Is that what like kind of inspired you to look at this business structure and create that shift to be like, okay, there has to be a way to bridge the gap between not just selling a product or hiring a marketing agency to sell the business or the product, but creating the shift of, okay, how can I structure myself and my skill set and focus on a purpose driven business and amplify that type of impact? So would you say like that story kind of just inspired you to take that jump there?
It did, and I quickly found, as I really started the process of selling that company and starting over, the first generation of Share on Purpose, it was like a purposeful Shark Tank, and I
Hmm.
was investing in purposeful ideas. And this was 2009 and 2010. Back then, there weren't the kind of ideas there are today. Today, one of my investments is Your Izzy, the first zero waste makeup line. This is mascara. They've got lip gloss. They've
Oh, I
got
love
Wow.
that.
zero waste. So this is steel, kind of like you would see at the dentist's office,
Hmm.
and they ship you the product. And this is actually the lip butter, which I absolutely love. It's addicting. And
Nice.
then when I'm ready for another one, they ship me a new one, and I put this in a nice little container and ship it back, and they recycle it. They can get 10,000 uses out of this, no plastic. So
Hmm.
That's brilliant. I
isn't that
love
brilliant?
that.
And they've got a skincare line where you drop a little pot in, you shake it up with water, you have skincare. So that's an example of an investment that I make today. But back then in 2009 and 2010, not only were we in a major recession, there weren't those kind of ideas back then to invest in. So I really struggled for the first 5 years with finding good ideas that I could make money at. But
Hmm.
I also, ironically, and because of the topic of your podcast around marketing, I also realized that the marketing that you do for a purposeful or conscious business is very different. You
Yes.
can't just do click funnels and lead magnets and that type of stuff. It
Hmm.
doesn't work. So I had to rethink everything I knew about growth marketing and performance marketing. I had to rethink all of that. And so that's what led me today to we have 5 companies that we own outright in our portfolio that serve conscious companies. And then we also invest in ideas like Your Izzy, and help them, give them the money and the expertise to take these amazing ideas to market.
I love that. That's such a big part of what Alecia and I really support, the building of communities where you can really support these kinds of novel ideas, these new ideas, these things that are coming from a place of wanting to create more good than you just creating a product, just creating something for the sake of the money of it. So, and I know that you did talk a little bit about this. I wonder if we could maybe kind of go back to it, the some of the challenges that there are in not just things like dealing with a recession, obviously dealing with things like the pandemic that happened. And I would love to hear, how did you deal with that and find conscious companies while you were shut up indoors and dealing with how everything was just kind of brought to a grinding halt? But when you are looking for these purpose-driven businesses and you're having to also navigate the way that everyone in the business world operates through challenges, how do you sort of stay afloat? How do you keep a mindset of trusting that you can still find these places and really still following that passion even when it is a challenge exceptionally, because you are not just navigating through something that all of the businesses are suffering through, but particularly still looking for those niche businesses that are coming from conscious energy and wanting to be of a more positive impact and not just out there to survive?
Yeah, great question. So it boils down to one thing, and we taught every employee that works in our portfolio to ask themselves this question every day. This was during COVID. Who do I serve and what do they need from me right now? And they approached every customer, and all of our customers grew during COVID because we pivoted on a dime, because the team just kept saying, who do I serve? What do they need from me right now? And they just, every day they woke up with that question. And then in one of our businesses is called Shiftco, and it trains conscious entrepreneurs. And we teach them the same question: who do I serve and what do they need from me right now? And so they're doing that right now because, you know, the winds appear to be blowing another direction. And needless to say, there's a lot of anxiety. We've got members who serve nonprofits. We have members that are doing DEI work, and I could go down the list, and they're afraid. And I'm like, no, don't be afraid. Who do you serve and what do they need from you right now? Don't listen to the noise. Pay attention to your truth. And everything that's happening is just loud. It's not true. So who do you serve and what do they need from me right now? And that will lead you to the places and the people and the relationships that want the gifts that you're really bringing to market.
That's such a great, I love that. That's some stuff that belongs on a t-shirt that you got, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, the marketing is just built right into everything that you're working on. Look at you just effortlessly putting together all the things that bring in the audience and supporting a community of conscious businesses. I love it. Sorry, Alecia, go ahead. I know you had a good question there.
You're good. You're good, girl. I love the flow of the conversation. I do have a bunch of questions to ask to Terri later on. But speaking as far as like the anxiety behind when you're asking entrepreneurs or business owners like where to start or where to get the funding or who to go to build out the technical side of their business and the consciousness, like building it and the consciousness, but how do you build that in the 3D world? Can you give me an example as far as like how do you help your industry and your community as far as overcoming the funding and operational hurdles in these high impact industries?
Yeah, so funding is interesting because most people don't really understand what a fundable business is.
Hmm.
And so the first thing that we help them evaluate is whether or not they have a fundable idea. A lot of people
Hmm.
have an idea and they think it's a great idea, but when you raise capital or you get capital either from nonprofit grants or equity crowdfunding, you're not getting it for the idea, you're getting it to execute the idea. And the hard part of any good idea is not the idea, it's executing it and
Hmm.
matching supply and demand. So the first thing that we help them figure out is this a fundable idea? Would somebody give you money? And then the second thing we help them develop is a funding roadmap, so that they know the different ways that they could raise funding and what the pros and cons of those ways are. A lot of people will hear these magical stories of, oh, an angel gave me $250,000, or they hear these kind of unicorn funding things that just aren't true. They're very, very rare. It's like
Hmm.
0.0001%, get funded that way. So we just break it down in real brass tacks terms, and then the fascinating thing is when the idea is truly purposeful, and it's not a lot of purposeful ideas make me feel good, but it's not really coming from this soulful place. So when an idea is truly coming from this deep conscious soulful place, you can't not do it. It's just a question of how are you going to do it. So
Right.
we give them a lot of support in the how, and literally walk them through the steps. You don't need to raise money here. We got to build this, and then you can do this without funding. And then once we do that, now we can raise funding. And so we give them a whole roadmap for once we know it's a fundable idea, how do you actually do it? What are the different ways you can raise money to do it?
I love that.
That is such a big thing for so many entrepreneurs, right? And people who have, and this is part of the reason why, you know, I got into podcasting in the first place, and why Alecia and I are really excited about doing more of these kinds of podcasts, because we do want to meet people like you who have that kind of expertise, because we are absolutely inundated all the time with people who have great products, great ideas, great projects that they're working on that are coming from a beautiful, impactful place, that are coming from a place of, we really do want to support people to thrive. We really do want to do things like create less waste in the world. We really do want to support an entire global community, again, in a way that we as humans have not ever really succeeded at doing, shall we say, right? But we have such unique opportunities now that we have things like the internet and the global markets that you can reach, and the ways that you can get to people that you may not ever have communicated with. From a business and entrepreneurial standpoint, can you maybe talk a little bit about how you have sort of watched the evolution of the internet, allowing people to connect in a different way, and maybe really kind of making a lot more room for these conscious businesses to get seen, get found, get more funding, have the opportunity to really thrive in a way that wasn't available before?
Yeah, great question. So I'll have to reveal my age to answer that question. I'm going to be
No,
six.
you don't have to,
I
but
have
we'll
to.
It's
listen.
okay,
I have
girl.
to. I'm going to be 60 in a few months, and I
You're
was
looking great,
I know
so
I
good
look
for
great.
you.
I know. But I was president of an internet subsidiary, and we did an IPO in 1999. So that's why I had to say I have to reveal my age. So I've been kind of doing internet marketing before anybody even knew that digital marketing was a real thing,
Wow.
because we had an ISP, and doing an IPO and focusing on growth. So I've been doing this for a long time. It dramatically changed the way I thought about marketing, dramatically changed. And I realized, even at the time when there weren't Facebook ads and Google ads and the kind of things that you have today, I knew that just based on the ones and zeros of digital technology, that marketing was going to change forever. And I began to think differently about it back then. So that I've seen it. I've been on the forefront of this for a long time. And what I didn't understand, however, is that digital marketing can be just as effective when it's authentic.
Hmm.
Not only can you tell the ones and the zeros and the clicks and all of that type of stuff, but you can build relationships with people online in less time than you could do it in a storefront, or if you have a B2B company and you're running around to physical networking events. And that was proven out during COVID, because we pivoted one of our businesses that was event driven. We pivoted in 2 weeks and made everything online, and that business is doing really well today. So
Nice.
I think it can be more authentic, as long as you're focused on building relationships and not getting sales. And then secondly, it's more efficient. And that combination of authenticity and efficiency ultimately makes it more effective.
Beautiful.
I Sorry, go ahead, Alecia. I know you want to
Oh,
talk about
yes.
authenticity, because that's just so
Yeah.
on brand for us. And I was like, I know she's got something in her pocket over there. I'll
Of
let her
course,
go.
of course. Well, yes, I was going to ask $1 million question, because I'm currently working with AI solutions, and I feel like it's so important to keep more of the human-centered type of mindset when we are using these AI capabilities and technology into our business. So, my question for you, how has AI technology, or just the regular technology apps online today, enabled your company to scale effectively? Either if it's like not just with your regular AI chatbot, but there's so many different ways now where AI can play a role, either in data, either in marketing, sales. So so how has that transition has been for you, for your business, but also for your employees and for your people that you're working with?
Yeah, so the way that I describe that to the founders that I work with in Shipco is
Hmm.
basically speak what you want to say from the heart,
Hmm.
and allow the tool to create visual images and allow the tool to create words that captures the essence. And
Hmm.
it's not going to be right the first time. So then just give it direction, almost like you were directing a freelancer. Can you make
Hmm.
this a little more authentic, or can you shorten this up? And by giving the direction and treating it like a partner in your business as opposed to a piece of technology, it's game changing. And
Yeah.
again, if you think about when somebody just speak from the heart, what would you say to your customers if you were just talking? Speak from the heart and then allow the tools to create images and words that help you capture that essence. That
Hmm.
alone can make your marketing more effective.
Yes,
That
I
authenticity makes all the difference. It
Yeah,
really does.
yeah. And from both of our experience, AI has definitely played a huge role into the AI graphics and the compliance of it, and just helping you build out your dream type of business, your dream type of lifestyle. And I feel like today's day and age, there's a lot of competition out there, but I feel like once you stay true to what that looks like from your perspective, and then attract that type of audience or attract that type of mindset and others, that's where AI can play a huge role into keeping getting that type of idea out there, but making it more of an organized perspective.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. And I would
Hmm.
add one thing to that, because this is something I think most founders don't recognize. They focus on the tool and the output of the tool, but they
Hmm.
forget at the end of the day, marketing is still marketing. And the hardest part of marketing is building awareness of the greatness that you're doing.
Hmm.
So you can put those things out there, but if you're not making sure that whatever you're putting out there is getting in front of more people, it's not going to solve it alone. You still have to build awareness. And from our research, it takes 1,000 people to become aware to actually end up with anywhere from 20 to 30 potential new customers. So you need a lot more awareness than you think you need. The
Right.
tool just saves you time and gives you more effective ways to get it out there, but you still have to make sure that people are seeing whatever you're putting out there.
Yes.
And
That's
that
really
does
well
kind of,
put.
right. And it does go back to what you're talking about with building relationships and the value of building relationships with people, right? You can't just lean on AI and ignore the human element of it. It does, much like the dishwasher helps you get things done so you have more time. AI is a tool that helps you to get things done so you have a little bit more time to focus on the connectivity and relationships. And so, in that kind of vein, can you maybe talk a little bit about sort of partnerships and collaborations then, and the value of building those relationships, creating partnerships, and finding ways that you can collaboratively share audiences, share customers, and a little bit of maybe the mindset behind conscious businesses that is different than the very sort of competitive bottom line sort of business model.
Yeah, we call it the ABCs of collaboration. And so the first one is alignment, where we're looking at our intentions. What is your intention in this partnership? What is my intention? B is beneficial. It has to be mutually beneficial. And then C is clear communication. So we need to be very clear and not nebulous about who gets what, who does what, and that needs to be well thought out.
Hmm.
And then the second thing that I say as it relates to partnerships is crawl, walk, run. Too often people come together and they join forces, and both the entities, they're not necessarily completely solid on their own, and they're hoping that the other partner gets them solid. That doesn't work. It's like in a relationship, two individuals coming together and being a couple and we're not feeling whole. It's not going to work. And I'm
Hmm.
hoping the other person is going to fix me. So it's crawl, walk, run. So crawl is, a loosely formed partnership with those ABCs, really thought through and documented. Step two is, hey, that was really good. Now let's really put a monetization strategy. How are we going to rev share, whatever we're going to do? And then if it really does work, it could become, we could combine the entity in some way and have a legal structure behind it. So the ABCs of collaboration, really making sure we're aligned. B is that it's mutually beneficial. C, that there's clear communication. And then go through stages, just like you would if you were dating. We're going to go have lunch first. And if that goes well, we're going to try a dinner. And if that goes well, and not just jump into a collaboration thinking that the other entity is going to solve your problems.
That's a great way
That's,
to
I
put
mean,
it.
valuable relationship advice and
Yeah.
valuable business advice. I love how you can play like Dr. Ann and also doing, the business stuff. Holding down two sides of a coin. I love it. And, maybe you could talk just a little bit about some of how you do that personally for yourself. You do look at a lot of high level things for different clients and doing the networking, connecting the dots, as it were. From the standpoint of the person who is watching that web and seeing how all of the points connect and seeing sort of maybe further down the road, as it were, can you talk about what you do personally to help keep yourself balanced and aligned so that you are your best self when you are working with all these different components and keeping things in flow?
Yeah, so I developed a methodology called Success Switch. And what Success Switch is it switches off a part of your brain in the amygdala where your stories are, I shoulda, I coulda, oh, that mistake that I made, that type of stuff. We all have these stories, right? So it switches
Very
that off.
human. Hmm.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and most people try to change their thoughts before they've put that amygdala in neutral. And so the first part of Success Switch is putting the amygdala in neutral, so that it can be reprogrammed. And then the second part is using your prefrontal cortex to activate your parasympathetic nervous system through breathing, a certain type of breathing, which basically floods the amygdala with serotonin and dopamine and makes it very malleable. And then the third part is claim a new belief. And so I do the Success Switch. It's very simple. It takes about 3 minutes. I teach it. We give people the 7-day Success Switch challenge that they can completely reprogram their mind in 7 days using these
I
3
must
steps. It's very
try
powerful.
this. I
It's very,
like.
very
Yes.
powerful.
That's
Very
very,
powerful.
yes.
It's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
ridiculously effective. But the key that most people don't realize is they try to change their negative chatter while their amygdala is running. So if you think about negative chatter, we're going like this, that
Mm-hmm.
amygdala is spinning and we're trying to put new beliefs in it and they're bouncing off. So what I learned with the Success Switch, if I can get the amygdala to go into neutral and then use my parasympathetic nervous system to flood my nervous system, my bloodstream, and the amygdala with serotonin and dopamine, it makes it very malleable. And now I can instill a new belief like, I have the power to create what I want, or I want to attract partnerships that are mutually beneficial. I can program that new story in a very short period of time. So that's what I use. It's been a game changer for me. I teach it in Succeed on Purpose. I teach it in Shipco. I think it's one of the most powerful pieces of work that I have.
I would love very much to just have you on a podcast to really dive deep into that
I would
because
love, I love it. It's game changing. It's
I
so powerful.
Yes. Because
I'm just so
we
excited
we
with the
practice
concept
that
of it. Yeah.
ourselves. Yeah.
Well, but I'm very excited with the
Hmm.
incorporation that you obviously have in the neuroscience that goes behind it, right? Very often when you are trying to shift mindsets, when you look into sort of like mindset coaching and business coaching, success
Hmm.
coaching, and Alecia and I are very familiar with a lot of that on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and it's something that is kind of heavily pushed, if you will. But when you're looking at that, it's not always coming from a space of understanding how the human physiological systems work. It's a lot of sort of hustle culture. It's a lot of, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, just sit down, get your mind to be quiet kind of thing. And
Hmm.
I think that this approach that you're talking about, and I would love it if you could just delve a little bit deeper into it. Again, Alecia and I love this, that you are incorporating medical science, neuroscience into it, and really recognizing and understanding that no matter how much you want to use your will or your spirit to just force your human into the box you think it needs to be in,
Hmm.
this human has a nervous system. This human has like systems that interconnect and work together. And when it's been overridden with anxiety and cortisol for such a long time, because so much in our society drives that cortisol, it's difficult to switch that off by just trying to train your thoughts like you're saying. So I would love it if you could just dig into this just a little bit more for us. I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing about the amygdala that most people don't understand, and I think I figured this out before I knew the brain science behind it, and then I became curious, why is this working so well? And I started doing and I've been studying this kind of stuff for a while. So I started doing some research, and I realized the problem child is the amygdala. It's the dumbest part of the brain, but it's strong. I mean, it is strong, and
Yeah.
all
Goes though.
Yeah.
all of our memories are stored there. All of our
Hmm.
pain is stored there. All of our fears are stored there. And because we're moving so fast, that amygdala is like a gear, and it's going, 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 going. And so the prompt is, of course, I break everything into simple, so it's also ABC. The prompt, A, stands for acknowledge. You say out loud, the truth is I feel, and then whatever comes up is basically stored in your subconscious, and the amygdala is running that program. So today I might say the truth is I feel frustrated. I might be having a perfectly great day, but something is in there. Maybe I've been
Hmm.
busy today, and that little kid in me is frustrated because I've been so busy and I haven't taken time for myself. So I say that, and then you pause. And the pause is, from the research, is the most important thing. You wait about 15, 30 seconds, and you'll feel the amygdala start to downshift. And it's such a cool feeling. It's like downshift. And then once it goes into neutral, B stands for breathing. So 4 breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. All that does is activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which starts changing the chemistry in your body, and it starts flooding your body with hormones and chemicals and things like that that go into your bloodstream. And then your blood pressure starts to come down. You feel that. Well, now those two things are there, the amygdala's pause. And when the amygdala pauses, it actually turns to the prefrontal cortex and says, okay, now what do you want me to do? General prefrontal cortex, what do you want me to do now?
It's just there
Right, it
standing at
does, because
attention,
it's
ready to
dumb, right?
go. Like,
It's
oh,
dumb.
what? Okay.
It's dumb, right? And so it turns and says, okay, what do you want me to do now? And I need some new information. And then before you give it new information, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and dopamine and serotonin start flowing. Oxygen starts to move differently in the body. Now it's very easy to program. And then C just stands for claim a new belief.
Hmm.
I have the power to create what I want. It's one of my favorite new beliefs I instill in it. And you just do that twice a day for 7 days, and that program dissipates. The old program, again, the amygdala is the dumbest part of the brain. It's easy to reprogram if you can get it to go into neutral, and if you can get the parasympathetic nervous system to work with it.
Fascinating.
Can't wait for us to be able to like dive into that with you. I think that sounds wonderful, just being able to get your mind to just pause and
Try
wait.
it when we're done. Try it. You'll be amazed.
I
You
Yeah.
would
gotta
love to
wait.
when I would love to. I
You
think this
gotta
would be
wait.
fun for us to do together.
Yeah, you
Obviously
got to
with
Hmm.
remember
mental.
that pause, because if you don't
Yeah.
pause, it won't slow down. And it's like a gear. If it's going, you can't put new information. So as soon as you feel it pause, almost like you just took your foot off the gas and your car is just kind of floating, you'll feel
Hmm.
that floating sensation, and then it's easy to program.
Hmm. I feel like this is a very powerful tool and tactic that entrepreneurs, business owners, creators can adopt into their method, because we are so, like myself as an entrepreneur, Haley as herself as an entrepreneur and creator. This is like a practice that we feel like we adopted, but not necessarily had the. I would say for me personally, I really haven't had the like the recollection to be like, okay, let me pause for a second and shift my gears to focus on this instead of focusing on like the outside trends or all the other distractions or the competition out there. So thank you for that amazing advice here. I feel like this is definitely a powerful tool anybody can use in their life or their lifestyle as an entrepreneur or a creator. My question for you, do you have any advice for our aspiring entrepreneurs, creators, innovators, movers and shakers, to turn their meaningful ideas into a profitable venture or creating their own type of digital communities?
Yeah, two things I would say. Number one, when I first became an entrepreneur in 2002,
Hmm.
again, older than I look, I I failed
Because
for
you've
the
got your
first.
amygdala in check, and that's why. Like, hey, y'all,
Right.
it probably
Yeah,
slows the
I
aging
didn't back
process.
then. I didn't back then, but you know, I for my first 18 months I failed miserably, and I was about to quit. And I had a coach at the time who said, you know, before you hang this dream up, I want you to interview some successful entrepreneurs and see if you can figure out what they have in common. So I was like, okay, it's worth it. And I did that. And I started interviewing successful entrepreneurs. I could only find one thing that they had in common. That is, they didn't quit. And I was like, okay, I mean, if you think about it, it wasn't degree. It wasn't whether the business was funded or not. It wasn't if it was easy, if it was hard. They just chose not to quit. So what I love about purposeful entrepreneurs is when it's truly coming from that soulful place, you can't not do it. And you've got to trust in that. And you have to trust that, you know, you're going to have what you need. And the second part of that, which ties very closely together, is your business grows as you evolve. Most people think the business grows as I market more or better. It really doesn't. Your business grows as you evolve, in
Mhm.
conscious business in particular. And that once I realized that, that's when I just started focusing when things weren't working rather than beating myself up. I'm like, okay, there's something in me that needs to heal, learn, or release. And I'm going to figure out what that is. And then I'm going to see where it leads me. And most of the really cool business concepts that I developed came from me realizing, hey, there's something in me that I need to heal, learn, or release. I'm going to focus on that first. And then that led me to whatever the business breakthrough was.
Amazing.
That really does speak to the value of, again, taking that time to take care of yourself internally, getting
Mhm.
yourself to a space where you can generate the beliefs that you prefer to operate from, right? That you prefer to live from. And I wonder if you could maybe talk just a little bit about then for conscious businesses, entrepreneurs, people who have this passion, but maybe do have a little bit of those, I guess I would say, limiting beliefs, right? Like, so this process that you have, obviously a great process. I can't wait to try it. What are some of the new belief structures, the more positive belief structures that a lot of people would maybe benefit from, or even businesses and within their organization for the morale of the team and for the sort of cohesiveness of the team? What are the beliefs that on an individual and team level that are kind of like the biggest ones that people need to sort of shift from the old paradigms and into what really does fit?
For founders, I find the most important one is we allow ourselves to be at effect of the business. It's working, it's not. If it's working, I feel good. If it's not, I feel bad, right? So you can't do that. You can't ride that roller coaster. It'll run you into the ground. So the belief that I always try to get them to work on first, using the success switch, acknowledge, breathe, and then claim the new belief, is that I have the power to create what I want. And if you do the ABCs, that success switch, and when you get to claim, you just claim that belief, do it twice a day for 7 days, you'll all of a sudden realize, hey, I can do this. Like all of a sudden that dynamic will shift.
Mhm.
So for founders, that's the one that I work on. For people that are in teams, whether they're corporate or small business teams, it really depends on what they're trying to accomplish. And if they're trying to accomplish a big idea, the idea could be when we work together, we win together, right? And so you get the whole team to use a belief like that. Or if they're, you know, if they've got a difficult customer, you can change it into being self-worth. I'm worthy of being treated fairly. So whatever the challenge is that I believe we attract it, and that's an old story that's in the amygdala. And so by really healing some of that amygdala pain and story and really beginning to reprogram it with a belief that's counter to that, you can change that old story and that old way of thinking.
Love that. I feel like it was just such a wonderful blessing. Alecia and I got to hang out with you for this conversation. Honestly, I feel like there's just such a wealth of knowledge. You're going to have to come back for multiple podcast episodes, I
Let's
think.
do it. Let's do
There's
it.
Yeah.
too much in that big brain of yours for us to be able to condense it into just one podcast, I feel. But I do
Right.
want to give you an opportunity to sort of really just, put forth to the audience the project that you really want people to be paying attention to that you're working on. What do you want folks that are listening to the podcast to rush out and go look at first? Not that we're trying to induce the anxiety, obviously, but what are you the most excited about that you're working on right now that you'd really like people to know about?
Yeah, hands down, it's shiftco.org. We teach founders, conscious founders, how to grow their business and their impact. 85.7% of our members double their business almost always within the first year. We have a 97.55% retention rate. I believe that my legacy and impact is in that business, and all of these tools and gifts and things that I had to figure out, that's where they live. And there's nothing like using your lessons and your tools to show people how to build a more prosperous business that is also purposeful and meaningful.
That's so,
Yeah.
I do want to say that I do so appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom openly, and I think it's such a nice reminder for folks who are listening that things are maybe a lot better than we tend to think they are, or
Yeah.
that we're told that they are, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of stories, right? The stories
Yeah.
that we're told to believe are, like you said, they're the loudest, but that doesn't make them true.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's people out there to help. There's people out there like Terry that has had that you can have access to this platform and you are very educated and you have the experience of building your business and looking at these different tools and this conscious building. And that is so valuable, especially in the world that we live in right now, where people are looking to channel their ideas into a business or figure out a way how they can bring value to their community and their business. So this was an amazing, amazing podcast and looking into diving more. Last question for you. Sorry to interrupt you, Haleigh.
Go ahead.
What would you say, since we're speaking about business entrepreneurship, um, like do you think it makes sense to give the advice as far as staying ahead of industry trends or evolving challenges? Because I feel like in this fast-paced industry, no matter what business you're doing, there's a lot of different trends out there and there's a lot of different competition when it comes to AI or what have you. So, like, what is your best advice that you can give everyone that's listening out there? Instead of staying ahead of industry trends, how can we just take our own ideas and our own passions and just strive with them?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I have very strong opinions about it. It is impossible today to stay ahead of trends. I mean,
Hmm.
scientifically proven. The
Right.
amount of words that are being created are 11 times greater than they were even 6 months ago. The amount
Hmm.
of videos that are it's impossible, right? And there's so much volume of information,
Hmm.
and you're not sure what to believe anymore in this crazy time that we're in.
Right.
So I go back to that question that I talked about earlier. Train yourself to get up every day and say, who do I serve and what do they need from me right now? And
Hmm.
figure out how to give them that. And that will lead you to the trends that matter for your clients and for your industry,
Hmm.
rather than the ones that somebody just did a really good job of promoting,
Right.
and they had a good story, right? So, just get in the habit of saying, who do I serve and what do they need from me right now? And if you just follow that thread, that will lead you to the trends that really matter.
Thank
I
you.
love
Thank you
that.
for that
There is
advice.
Well, there is such a volume of, like you're saying, content information, and I think the positive spin on it that is that there's room for everyone, right?
Hmm.
Whatever you put out there, whatever your flavor is, whatever your business is, there is an audience for you, right? There's room for
Absolutely.
everyone to grow and to thrive. I really do love this question. Who do I serve and what do they need from me right now? I wonder if you could kind of close out on, again, just sort of bringing that individual and collective sort of together in the sense of, and this is something that for me personally, I have sort of come to the idea that my highest service is my greatest passion, is my highest joy. Because when I am in my highest authenticity, when I am in this thing that I'm passionate about, that's where I exert my best shine. That's where I am the brightest that I possibly could be, and I am my very best self, which means I am at my very best service. So what would you say to folks who are maybe looking for the way to connect the idea of the passion that I have within me that serves me so well is the greatest service to whomever out there needs my service? How would you sort of put that together for people?
Yeah, great question. I have to cite a coach that I worked with in 2005, Jan Van Zandt, and I was struggling because I was an entrepreneur and the business was working, but it wasn't working the way that I wanted. And I had a huge self-worth issue because I grew up very, very poor. Both of my parents were alcoholics. I was abused in every way possible. So I had major self-worth issues and had used success to make me feel good enough. And now here I was not having the success that I wanted to have. And I remember her kind of putting her glasses down on her nose like she does and saying, "Do you love what you do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love what I do. I love growing companies. I love growing leaders." And she said these words. She's obviously a spiritual teacher. She said, "The more you want to do it, the more God wants that for you." And there was just something about the truth of that. I say now, the more I want to do it, the more your higher self wants that for you. But there was something that just literally resonated in my soul. And that was when my self-worth began to change, is that I realized that our passions are really our soul's way of like a GPS kind of guiding us in a different direction. So when you truly love it, like I love what I do every single day. There's probably maybe 5% of what I do that I don't really like. But 95% of what I do day in, day out, my soul is alive doing it and I love it and people get benefit from it. And so I've followed that mantra since 2005 that the more I want, the more I'm feeling called to do something, the more I'm going to follow that. And it's never failed me.
Follow your
Message.
highest joy and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah. God always has a plan for us.
The universe, God, higher self, call it by whatever name you like. The infinite intelligence of all that is. The thing that you want to do the most is the thing that you came here to do, and it is the thing that wants to support you to do more of it.
Exactly. And most often we just have to look at those stories. I had a story that I wasn't good enough, and if I'm not successful, then who am I? And you just have to get rid of those stories and replace them.
Yeah.
That's so brilliant. Thank you, Terri Maxwell. Let me tell you, the business guru just all around. You've got the spirituality, you've got the mindset, you've got the neuroscience, you've got the business model. What do you not have? I tell you, you've got it all. I can't believe that we have had the wonderful luck of being able to sit here with you for it. I tell you, the time has just flown by and it's just not been enough. I feel like we could really delve into all of these things so much further. But we do want to be respectful of your time, of course. So we do want to give you the opportunity to just, once again, last words for the audience, for those folks listening who were wonderful enough to join in and get all of the wisdom and the wonderful vibes that you have to give out. What would be the last thing you would want to get on people's minds?
Yeah, we do tons of free events at shiftco.org. So come check them out and, learn from us and hang out with us. And then if it feels right, join us. Like I said, that's where I spend most of my time. And I would just say, follow your joy, listen to yourself, and just shut the noise out. It's not true. It's just loud right now. And the truth will always make its way back to us and we'll get on the other side of some of this craziness.
Oh, love that. There we go.
There we go. Well, thank you, Terri, so much. Founder of Share on Purpose, and I'm so excited to check out more of shiftco.org because I love the idea of so many of the tools that you talk about offering. Alecia, Maximo, Venora AI, thank you for joining me to co-host.
Of course. And we also have to thank Ronald for connecting us with the amazing Terri. I love how things just come together and the synergy here. So thank you,
Ronald.
And we want to just give a quick shout out to Raphael, our producer, who has been helping put this together for us and run things in the back. And thank you so much, Ronald and Shy Marketing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on an episode of the Don't Be Shy podcast. And I do hope you'll join us again for more of this wonderful wisdom that we have from more wonderful folks like Terri. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Great job, ladies.
No,
I
thank
know.
you.
So
Thank you, Terry.
Raphael's in the back, and I just don't know if he's like. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
that'll be a good for him. But I would really love to explore this
Yes.
3 minutes
I have
all it
a
takes to
bunch of
do them.
questions.
I know.
Yes.
I'm just like, you have to come on our podcast now. I can't wait for you to talk more with us about all of these things. It's just
Hmm.
so perfect.
Let me know what you
Yeah.
need.
I would love to, like, I'm gonna check out this shift code, but like the slow your amygdala and do the like. I love the success
Switch.
reframe. The
Success switch.
success.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I am gonna
Yeah.
go get on Shiftco, and I would love to just try that and do it. That's
Yeah. I feel like
and
for both me and Haleigh, when we do work together, uh I feel like that's a thing that we're adopting, especially waking up every day, like having multiple tasks to do, even though it's like us and a couple people on our team, and like we're growing both of our businesses and growing both of our brands. We're part of Nuvius, our spiritual and conscious community that's a nonprofit, and we would love to speak more in detail with you on that because I feel a synergy there where we are developing this nonprofit with with
hmm
Murray Jackson. He's a Reiki healer, Marge and Carol,
Mm.
and it's just been an experience as far as Haleigh adding me onto the team and then adopting these practices and looking at that paradigm where a couple years back where I was before, where it's like I didn't think I was good enough. And then now seeing that paradigm
hmm
shift and collaborating and doing these networking things on LinkedIn and making these connections with Ronald and our AI partner, Jackie, it's just been so mind blowing as far as like, I don't even know Haleigh and I can get to this point, but now we're here.
I
Well,
love it.
and
So
it's
are you guys have a business together, or do you have two businesses that you kind of collaborate with?
we're building two business. We're helping build this nonprofit
We're doing a
together on the
lot.
one side. Yeah, we're doing a lot, and then we're working on building a business idea with Jackie, and also kind of trying to find ways to again offer our services in whatever way we can. I've got the creative writing, the personality, the podcast stuff, and we want to be able to use our networking personalities to support these different projects that we think are so valuable, especially like you're saying, in a time when things are chaotic and noisy
Right.
and people really
Mhm.
are looking for ways to cut through the noise to hear
Right.
their own selves and their own
Yeah.
internal voice and that intuition. And like Alecia said,
Exactly.
that's something that, with Nuvius and the sort of spiritual community side of it in that way, wanting to support conscious businesses, support conscious entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people who are just skilled people who want to be a part of a conscious business and not just getting a job because it fits their skill set, but really wanting to have employers who are conscious as well, right? And wanting to create that community space where people can come to and find here are some businesses that are in that conscious realm and do want to be impactful and do want to do like bring you in because you fit energetically, not just because I need someone for this skill, I'll pay you to do it, right? The very
Mhm.
sort of
Right.
transactional nature of business, right, is what we're trying to build something that is different. So that's I just feel like we're so aligned to your energy. So perfect that we ended up getting to like do
Yeah.
this podcast
Yeah.
with you. Just so perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know how I can support what you're up to for sure.
Yeah. I
I
was gonna
would,
say
yeah,
to
I
start.
would.
Oh, go ahead,
No, go
Haleigh.
ahead. Mhm.
I was gonna say, like, to start, we definitely like for me personally, and I feel like for Haleigh, we have been racking our brains as far as like we have these ideas, we're building these solutions, these SaaS solutions, but at the same time, it's like how can we expand both of our brands separately, but also together with Nuvius, where we are this conscious spiritual building community, but on a nonprofit scale. But for both of us, we have a for-profit business where Haleigh is the beautiful personality hire.
I
And we
am.
work
That's
very
me.
well
I'm. Yep.
together, right? Building podcasts and building all these different solutions. But I feel like both of us struggle with bridging the gap between the idea aspect of what we're building for me personally in the cannabis space, the health and wellness space, where clients are coming to me to like saying, okay, I want to expand globally. I want to build an education AI solution. I want to white label AI. I'd be like, okay, what's the purpose behind this? So there's a
hmm
lot of things as far as like what we're dealing with as individuals where we're applying for funding. I'm currently in